Mid-July 1966, the full-scale heavyweight lifting body is ready for its first test flight. Strapped under the wing of a B-52, Thompson is to be taken to 45,000 feet and then dropped into a plummeting dive. Wingless and powerless, he is to execute two 90-degree turns during a 217-second descent. At the last moment, lower the landing gear and then straight to a spectacular 200-mile-per-hour landing on the lake bed.
There was a feeling of anticipation, certainly on the first flight of the heavyweight vehicle. I'm sure that every test pilot goes through this, and yet the extensive simulation work that I had done on the vehicle pretty well convinced me that it would fly and that I could get it down and land it safely. With the background that I had in the lightweight vehicle, I felt much better on the first flight and was actually anxious to get off the hooks, get off the B-52 and see how well it would fly.
Okay, all systems go. Check your dampers. Track looks good. Oh, it's good. Heading is good.
Okay, flying real nice.
Now give us an airspeed alpha turn, airspeed alpha as you roll.
Again, the steep flight path angle was very apparent. The rate of descent averaged out about 15,000 foot a minute, which sounds pretty impressive, but actually you have quite a bit of time to evaluate the handling qualities of the vehicle and prepare for the landing.
Beautiful, Milt, beautiful.
I've got you, 389.
On in here.
Well done, Milt. Right. That place goes no further than X-15, doesn't it?
The lifting body work that we are presently involved in may benefit the space program some 10 years in the future. From every flight program, there's a tremendous amount of data which was applicable to the manned space vehicles, not necessarily the exact same system, but the concept.
In the future, a version of the heavyweight vehicle will be equipped with an X-15 rocket plane engine, and Thompson will take it to 80,000 feet and 1,200 miles per hour before starting the descent. Further in the future, and as more funds become available, a piloted lifting body with a heat shield will be launched from Cape Kennedy atop the Titan III for a flight that will carry it from the Atlantic to the Pacific, where it will re-enter the atmosphere for a controlled landing on the lake bed.
In a way, we may be considered test pilots for the astronauts because we're working with configurations that are some 10 years in the future and could end up as one of the mission vehicles that they actually are working with.
Colonel Buck Buchanan, Commandant, United States Air Force Aerospace Research Pilot School, Edwards Air Force Base.
I think the reason that this country, both DOD and NASA, are interested in lifting body or winged vehicle type spacecraft is that they have they're much more flexible in their launch configuration and also during their re-entry, where they can maneuver and have what we call a large footprint, both longitudinally and laterally. We have, say, laterally plus or minus 3,000 or 4,000 miles we can maneuver, which means that during re-entry, once we decide to re-enter, we can land almost any place in the continental United States. Now, take the case of somebody, say, in Project Mercury or Gemini or even Apollo, when they made re-entry into the into the orbit of the Earth. If they get in trouble, say don't have a fuel supply in order to retro thrust, in order to make a re-entry, and the astronauts are stranded in orbit, how then would we recover them? Or how would we recover them, and say we want to recover them in a hurry? With a lifting body type vehicle that could be used for rescue, supply, or logistics type operations, we could launch, make rendezvous, dock, go in and give medical attention to the astronauts, transfer them to the other to the lifting body spacecraft, and then make re-entry at random. And by making re-entry at random, I mean we don't have to pick a particular point in the orbit where we start our re-entry. The case now, say, with Project Gemini is we have a complete Navy fleet of aircraft, of ships on the ocean, and the re-entry is such that it must be very, very precise, and there is very little maneuvering available during re-entry. The ships must be there so that we're restricted to make the re-entry at a specific time and location. With a spacecraft capable of making maneuvers during re-entry, we can make re-entry almost at any point and recover in the United States. And if we have an astronaut that has a serious medical condition, this would be very beneficial. We hope and plan to get lifting body spacecrafts in the school inventory here at the Flight Test Center. We're studying the operational aspects of lifting bodies in high-performance modified aircraft.
Buchanan is interested in the capabilities of future spacecraft because he is responsible for the capabilities of future astronauts who will fly them. His command has but 3 known counterparts in the world: the Empire Test School in Farnborough, England, France's Saint-Desaix, 50 miles south of Paris, and the Navy's Test Pilot School at Patuxent River, Maryland. Graduates of this school and of the Navy's school will be required to test everything from variable wing multi-engine carrier aircraft to vertical takeoff prototypes to arresting gear reliability. This widely varied background has made them the primary source of astronaut selectees for the nation's manned space programs. It is here that highly skilled pilots discover how much more skill and knowledge they must acquire for the intricate, demanding programs of the future. They arrive with a working knowledge of differential calculus, flight theory, aeronautical mechanics, and aerodynamics, and go on from there to computer theory, aerothermodynamics, project management, nuclear and exotic propulsion.
Okay, I would just like to welcome you here to the school, and this morning we'll give you a little briefing on what the school is and what you as the wives and the students can expect in the next year. The attitude and the caliber of pilots or students that we get today are far and above military pilots of 10 years ago. Number one, they're a little more mature, certainly more mature than I was when I finished flying school. They have by far a finer education. Half of our students have masters and a few have PhDs. I think they're the finest young people this country has. They're going to be very rewarding. They'll all be flying jobs in either as experimental test pilots or as crew members on space programs. And there'll be a lot of work here, and how you do in this school really is very, very important on your whole future career. So I want to wish you all the luck I can and work hard. The reason we brought the student wives down was to give them an indoctrination and sort of a detailed briefing on the activities that their husbands will be involved in for the next 12 months. We felt it very beneficial to let them know just what the program is at the very onset of their training, and it just makes for better community relations, and I think the wives are more tolerant during their stay here then.
Okay, now would you go in this gate right down here, the next gate, and onto the pad out in front of the school. We're going to go by the helicopter, which is right back here. You talk about the helicopter.
Our tour guide?
Huh?
Are you our tour guide?
It looks like we have more than we expected. 5.
Vietnam carrying quite a few bombs, but as I say, these can't. Student gets about 10 hours of flying time in this. And as I say, it starts after they've been here about 2 months.
By putting rings in the exhaust nozzle and pouring a little raw fuel in, the heat from the engine or hot streak ignition can ignite the fuel and the air that is going through here, and you have additional combustion in the tailpipe. Now, as that exhaust comes out, you want it to expand efficiently, depending upon your altitude and all. So you have eyelids both inside and out, which close and open to give you a nozzle effect, a nozzling effect, which gives you your best expansion, which gives you thrust.
We're responsible for training research pilots, or as most of us refer to them as astronauts. We do not train the astronauts for a specific vehicle, but train them in general, give them their general background training so that they can go either to a NASA program or to a military space program.
Perform the dual function of elevator and aileron, so that when the pilot pulls the stick back, the elevator action causes both elevons to go up, or when he pushes forward, they go down.
They'll be flying many different types of aircraft, probably aircraft with higher performance than ever before, and when they graduate, they'll be very, very seasoned test pilots, probably the best trained test pilots the world has ever turned out.
This is the X-15, the highest flying, fastest, most exotic airplane in the world. While the lifting body project is solving flight control problems in the lower atmosphere, the X-15 is solving the same problems on the fringes of space. They are, in effect, two sides of the same coin. Since Scott Crossfield made the first powered flight on September 17, 1959, it has been flown at speeds over 4,000 miles per hour and altitudes over 354,000 feet, 67 miles into space. The history of its success has filled record books, and the 11 men who have flown it sound like a who's who of modern flight. For NASA, Neil Armstrong, John McKay, Milt Thompson, and the late Joe Walker. Navy's Forrest Peterson. And for the Air Force, Bob White, Joe Engel, and Major Pete Knight. Their world is a world of exotic new concepts, lightning reflexes, and the close-knit friendships born of danger and a common goal.
How's the bird making, Mike? It's all right. It'll be in as soon as I get a tire changed on it. Tire changed, all right.
It is a world of professionals, surrounded by a calm, relaxed atmosphere that seems inconsistent with the mission. But it is mute testimony to the ability of the men.
Falling all the way down.
How's flight go, Pete?
Good, good. Good flight.
Good flight. Aren't they all?
Yeah. Flew an altitude flight. It would have been better if Chase Ford had been there.
Not Gomer again.
Yeah. What, did he have a bunch of aces?
I was just going to say. These deuces really hurt.
Don't mess it up.
He doesn't know what to do with it, though. It's all right.
Deuce there.
Okay, come on. No kibitzers now.
Deuce there. Of course, the X-15 is the most exotic airplane in the world, and we hope to gain knowledge of heating problems associated with re-entries, structural problems that might occur at higher Mach numbers. From this, it will be a natural extension, as was the X-1 through the X-15, to something more exotic, to maybe a lifting body re-entry type vehicle. I think that civilian aviation benefits completely by the research and the development work that the Air Force and NASA accomplishes.
Hey, Pete, what's this I hear about you going up to Blackbird again?
Yeah, next Thursday, another flight.
Well, they're going to catch you off. You've already used up your 7 for this year, haven't you?
Well, not quite. You know, got to get a few flights in before you get a tank flight.
I know, double up and catch up.
Right. Anybody can speculate that it will progress to higher velocities, even in terms of a possibility of intercontinental ballistic transportation from coast to coast or from one continent to another, cutting the size of the Earth down to almost nothing.
John McKay, senior NASA research pilot assigned to the X-15.
The general aim of the X-15 program, in conjunction with the M2, was to get a type of configuration that can be re-entered from space. It doesn't make a difference really whether it's from deep or shallow space. Well, my station wagon could orbit and re-enter to a certain point if we had enough thrust to put it up there.
So you got a little nick out there, Larry.
Yeah, that stuff's holding up pretty good, Jack. We plan to get some more before next flight.
Now, how long will it take you to turn the bird around?
About a week and a half, Jack.
Week and a half. Got a lot of
inspections to do, engine inspection, post-flight, cabin pressure.
Say, we landed with a little bit of LOX in the tank there.
Yeah, it usually stays in a couple of hours. It's kind of cold under there.
The X-15 itself is a lifting body because you get quite a bit of the lift off the fuselage. If you take a look at those wings, they look like little stepping stones that get up to the cockpit.
Speed brake, that flight, not very much.
Do you have any porcelain crank off here?
No, the engine looks real good. Comes through real good.
What type of a configuration? It can be several, many. It could be what we call a winged aircraft or even just a blunt body. For some type of configuration that can be maneuvered, and it doesn't have to have too much maneuverability either.
A few spots here and there.
Where's the burn paint?
It's scald in here and there.
So it may take a week and a half to turn it around. Hmm?
Yeah.
Go ahead and reschedule. Let's look at the canopy a minute.
There we go.
The flight of an X-15 begins in this simulator. McKay will be ground controller for the first checkout flight of NASA pilot Bill Dana, scheduled for the following morning. He, as well as Dana, will rehearse the procedures until they are automatic.
Well, I haven't flown this plane in 2 months.
Yeah.
Upstairs in the control room, Milton Thompson monitors.
And watch your angle of attack. Should be on 11 degrees now. Your heading is good, and your profile is good.
The most difficult thing as far as teaching, say, a service type pilot coming in the X-15 program is to stay on profile during this boost phase.
Just a little bit of aileron bias here.
Yeah. So shut down at, you want to shut down at 5200?
5150.
5150.
Under these circumstances, he's under a very tremendous longitudinal G, something he hasn't been subjected to in the past, even with jet-type aircraft.
About 84 and a half or so.
Okay, keep it up to 11 degrees.
How's my track looking now, Bill?
Looking real good, Jack. Okay, you should be on theta now.
Stand by for shutdown.
The one problem, though, is to trying to keep your head inside the cockpit and pay attention to what you're doing, because there's a fantastic sight up there. Above 90,000 feet, you're essentially in a pretty black void. It's
Experiment on now.
first something being in a very black closet with a very bright light and mat running under your feet.
And here comes the G, Jack. And well, a maximum of 5 Gs for about 12 seconds on the reentry.
When you come back in on a reentry, say a typical one from 300,000 feet, you don't have the sense that you're actually falling back in the atmosphere. You're just standing still and the ground's coming up at you.
Think about here.
What was the max G on that last one?
5 Gs.
Of course, the simulator isn't too much help from the standpoint of G input, but it does help them to
Maintain about 500 feet per second.
program himself from a time element. In other words, what he's going to be doing in the next second, to be able to go to the next thing and do it properly. And naturally, he will do this over and over again, many, many hundreds of times before he ever makes his first flight.
Okay.
following morning, the liturgy of the actual flight begins, with McKay acting as flight controller, Knight observing, and NASA pilot Bill Dana in the X-15 for the first time.
And it's pretty hard to get it on tape too much, but it just doesn't record. You get it on what tape? You get it on what tape?
On Delamace tape.
Oh, yeah.
Get the flight control.
008, NASA 1.
Go ahead.
Roger, your point over North Base will be your 35 minute. And your heading will be 008 degrees and 25 to 30 south.
Roger, understand 35 minutes over North Base, 008, and 25 to 35 south.
008, numerous attack aircraft operating in a Death Valley area, altitudes unknown.
008, Roger.
You ready for another set of gauge readings? Go ahead, Bill. Alright, Fox is 33, number 1 and number 2 are 32. Control gas 570. Cabin source 33. APU sources number 1 and number 2 3850. Number 1 mixing chamber minus 45. And number 2 mixing chamber minus 40. And NASA 1, we have windshield heat on, engine master on, engine reset, and free cool. Okay, Bill. That's the one, right? 008 approach control, you over the auto marker now northbound. 008 heavy. Roger, radar contact. 961 and 748, are you with 008?
Down to 161, Bill 1.
Okay, and back to 10 degrees. Coming up on 40,000 at 12. 008, NASA 1. Your one's at 45 thou or 210 degrees at 41 knots, over.
008, Roger.
That 130's flight number is that 133, guys? Alright, got the exact. And I'm reading a heading of 168. Prime, igniter ready light, pre-cool, igniter switch. Tape on. Pump idle. Manifolds coming up. Second stage coming up. How's it look, Jack? Looks very good, Bill. Let's go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. We got a good light down here, Bill. Alright, looks good here, Jack. Watch angle of attack. Right. And you're coming up on profile. Stand by with later, Bill. Right. You're paralleling the track and stand by for your pushover. Right. Pushover now. 4,500 feet per second. 4,500 feet per second. 70,000. Coming up on 70,000. Track and profile are good, Bill. You're just to the left of track. Right. On profile, on track. This thing handles a lot better dampers off than the simulator does. Got a fixed gain? Roger. Fixed gain. Huh? Roll off. Looking very good. And you're paralleling the track very good, Bill. Right, Jack. Stand by for shutdown. Right. Kind of black up there, isn't it?
Oh, there's shutdown. There's shutdown.
Yeah, it kind of is. We have your shutdown. Go to your alpha beta. Right, Jack. Alpha beta.
150 Q, he's re-entering.
150 Q, you're re-entering now. And you should have the field in sight shortly. Okay, I got a little too much data right now to see it, Jack. Alright, Jack, I'm showing 128. The speed brakes are coming at 20 degrees. Yeah, we have your speed brakes. Right. Yeah, you're coming downhill. About 4 or 5. The yard's back on. Down to 0. We're showing about 150 Q. Yeah, how about that? And up to 10. Real good profile, Bill. A little buffet there, Jack. We're taking the mid snapper off. Okay, and you're coming up on a 50-mile point.
What'd you say, Pete?
Watch his speed brakes.
What's your speed brake, Bill? Okay, the mid snapper on, Jack. I'm going to hold my 10 here till I break my rate of descent. And you can come out with some brakes. Want to pull out? And you're coming by Cuddy back, Bill. Okay, Jack. How's my altitude look? 65 thou, and you should see the field. I do. Okay, Bill, take it from there. Up to 10. What are you showing for altitude, Jet? And you're about 15 miles. Okay. At 2-4. Okay. And at 2-2, and check your pressure altimeter, Bill. Okay. There's 10 miles. jettison any time. Watch angle of attack on this turn, Bill.
Okay.
And speed brakes in. Speed brakes in, Bill.
They're coming in, Jack. They're in. Jettison. All day long. They've been having radio trouble all week. Okay, I guess we'll let the guys over. They tried to call you right after landing, Jack, and they couldn't reach you. Valley over, got a lot. Right.
Looks like a good one, Bill.
Yeah, well done, Jack. Boy, I never listened to that.
All stations, the post flight will be at 11:30.
Contact 132 and ask them to see ETA back in 1 week.
Is he going to pick up the Jeeps and everything and bring them back? The Jeep, yes, but the fire truck stays.
When weeks of anticipation and tension give way to the satisfaction of a job well done, the final release and camaraderie of small talk is inevitable. In this way, research test pilots are no different than baseball players or accountants. NASA pilot Bill Dana.
Which we ran up on about 150 feet of war surplus nylon cord, Jack.
Are these the big
fill
ones?
them, yeah, and fill them with war surplus helium. It seems like they got to about, they got about to Food Fair. They live over about, 13th West and Ivesburg. Yeah. They got about 3 or 4 blocks away from the house, and John's wife says, "What are all those balloons doing over your house?" John says, "They're not over my house. They got about a block from his house." And John says, "Maybe they are over my house." After it was all over, Ralph and I realized we missed a real prize on this for sale time. We should have said, price includes Japanese gardening.
Hey, Bill, have a little more on that tea there. Put some ice in it this time. Well, Bill has a total of 3 flights now, so he's had his quota for the year.
You're only supposed to get, 5 or 6 a year?
Yeah, but he didn't get them in half.
Yeah, that's right. How about next Thursday?
I haven't got to number 6 yet.
That's how much I know about that program.
I read it in the paper.
In the light-hearted gaiety of the moment, the famous pilots who can never again join in the laughter are not mentioned. But they're not forgotten.
Jack, come Tuesday.
I guess I'll be flying Tuesday.
What kind of flight?
Another high altitude flight.
When we lose one of our close relationships in an accident, the experience that we feel, it's apprehension in a way, I think. We feel like that we would particularly like to get down to why this sort of thing happened.
I think that possibly externally we don't appear to have suffered a loss, but I think this is true in any flying organization. In most cases, you know him better than his wife. You're with him more hours a day than his family is.
I think that you can just, as a good example, if you're in a platoon and going into combat and your platoon leader says that one person is going to come back, you're going to turn around to everybody and say, "Well, it's been nice knowing you people." That's probably not a good example. I believe psychologically that's the way everybody feels.
You don't mope around too long because somebody's got to get out and fly the next day, and so you've got to maintain a pretty good outlook to actually ensure your own survival. You worry about yourself shortly after you lose somebody else.
I think the good Lord gave us the idea that we are going to be the next.
He's up by noon almost every day.
Well, actually, Bill, the reason that it takes me so long to get to work is I'm combing my hair. That's an ingenious way of the way he splits 3 hairs all over the top of his head.
The 35 years of experimental flight test experience these men represent can control the normal anxieties and fear associated with the mission, but it cannot eliminate them.
You certainly do have a certain amount of fear. I think even now that the night before an X-15 flight, we try to get as much rest as possible to give yourself every break and to cut down the anxiety as much as possible.
I think I can truthfully say that in the beginning that there was a certain amount of fear, but I think that this kind of outgrows the fact that you've done it over and over again, and I think the fear has given way to just plain anticipation. You've got to have confidence in yourself and convince yourself that you can get it back on the ground safely once you've dropped away from the B-52, because you're the only thing that's going to land this airplane. And if you can't do it, you better not hit the release button.
For most of us, perhaps it is an insurmountable jump from these men to the world of tomorrow, for which they have dedicated and gambled their lives. A world of space traffic as heavy as air traffic, manned orbiting research laboratories that will unlock the mysteries of the universe, and intercontinental ballistic airliners that will travel from New York to Rome in 45 minutes. As we approach the new era in space, most of us cannot hope to follow or understand the impact of events that surround us. But this has been the case with the dawn of each new era. A few daring men are selected to lock horns with the dilemmas of progress. The rest of us must be content to sit on the sidelines of history and observe.
I know that the X-15 is a research aircraft. It's important. What they actually do with it, I have no idea. And actually, it's none of my business, but being around the aircraft for approximately 25 years, why, I at times feel like a babysitter.
Well, on track. This thing handles a lot better dampers off than the simulator does. Got a fixed gain? Roger. Fixed gain. Huh? So, looking very good. And you're paralleling the track very good, Bill. Right, Jack. Stand by for shutdown? Correct. Kind of black up there, isn't it? Yeah, it kind of is.